Ladies and gentlemen, we are so back. School is over, so we can finally do this again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Emerald City Sports, the podcast. It has been a minute, but two-thirds of the boys are back. Hopefully, next week, Jacob will be back. He has said he should be hopping back on the pod soon. But for now, it's just Josh and me, fresh off of finishing school, not with the best finish. We kind of. I know I choked it at the end. I don't know about you, Josh. How do you feel? Describe
Amazing.
it in sports terms. Describe it in Mariners
Des-
terms.
um, Describe it in sports terms. It felt like the 2022 Game 2 of the AL wild card against the Blue Jays, when we were down like 10-1, and then I just clawed it back for the win in the series and keep that 4.0 GPA.
We love
Let's
that.
go. Was it worth?
Good work.
Was it worth not doing this podcast? No. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but got the job done.
For me personally, you could compare it to Andres Munoz coming in the ninth and then selling a three-run lead by giving up 4 runs, and then you lose the game on a walk-off. That's my situation. So obviously, not doing the pod was absolutely not worth it. But you know what? We're here. We're back, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about because the last time we did this was 2 months. So since then, the MLB season has started. The draft happened. The schedule for the NFL came out. So we'll talk about a little bit of that later, especially Byron Murphy. We'll talk about Byron Murphy, but let's start off with the focus of Seattle sports right now, and that is the Seattle Mariners. We are over 80 games into the MLB season, and the Mariners are currently having a lead in the AL West. Now, that you might think that's a very good thing, but right now it's not looking as good as we would want it to be because about 6 days ago, the Mariners had a 10-game lead on the AL West over the second place, which was the Rangers. Now the Astros are up into second, and the Mariners, their lead has shrunken down to 5.5 games. So what you're seeing here is a lot of, in a way, inconsistency. Look, the winning record is great and all, but there's a lot of issues with hitting, with the bullpen, and it just makes fans just absolutely angry at just seeing like how the Mariners just can't have a complete game for once. Josh, how do you feel about this season? 80 games in so far. We're about the halfway point already.
Almost there. The All Star vote is, I think, just about ending for Phase One. Um, Somehow we're mid, but somehow, unlike previous seasons, we were able to get the division games done. We have the best record against teams in our division in all of baseball. And we were able, I mean, the reason why we had that league was we were the ones that forced the Rangers, the Astros, the Athletics, the Angels, all of them to lose, and they kept that losing with other teams as well. Other than that, we can't actually perform against good teams. Yankees, we struggled. Guardians on 2 series, we struggled. The Royals, we struggled. The Reds, with De La Cruz, we just let that guy stealing. I mean, Cal Raleigh is tired, and we are getting stolen by a lot. And all of that has somehow given us a lead, but also we're still complaining because it just feels like we suck.
And the reason why we even have the lead like right now is because of that starting rotation. I mean, this is coming into the season, this was hyped up as the best starting rotation in the MLB. And at first, did not really look like that. I mean, the only guy who was really performing well was George Kirby. But then after like the first few series, the whole starting rotation just really started to ramp it up. And the reason why we've been winning is because they've been throwing such amazing games. It's been quality start after quality start. And even though the hitting isn't going the way we want it to, the pitching being completely shutting down the opponent just really helps. And we don't have to score as many runs. We don't have to score like 5, 6 runs. It could be 2 or 3 runs and we can still win the game because that's how good that starting rotation has been. Josh, how do you feel about the starting five, or when Hancock was in there, replaced by Wu eventually? How do you feel about that starting rotation, and which pitcher has stood out to you the most?
Well, as I think during this first half, like this first 40 games, kind of those first 2 months, we were like outstanding. We had a streak of less than 2 ERA for like 20 something games. It was crazy. During this like last month or so, we've been falling down. Like we still have the second, I think top at least top 5 on best ERA of baseball, but this backstretch has not been good for the pitchers. Luis Castillo, I've been pointing out, has been glaring as not as good as we probably have been trading him for since probably last year, last
After the All Star
July, and
break, yeah.
he yeah, after the All Star break, he has given up the most losses for the team, is 6-8, and is the worst ERA, um, with 3.63, except Emerson Hancock at 4.79. Except he only played, um 8 games, so that hasn't been good. And in our fifth spot of the rotation, Brian Wu keeps on getting injured for some reason, and Hancock as a replacement won't work for the long term as well. And just today, Brian Wu has been put on the IL 15 for a right hamstring injury. Yes, previously he's hurt his arm, but now he's hurting his legs. And now I guess we have to bring back Hancock again or something. But it's just that's not going well for that fifth spot of our rotation. Now, the pitcher I think that has been standing out has to be Logan Gilbert. I mean, wow. He's been showing his stuff. He's been showing making all this progress through the farm and all the way up to here. It feels like he was kind of a rookie just recently, but now he's 2.71 ERA, has thrown the most innings. I feel like he can go deep into games really uh consistently. 5-4 record, not bad, but has really helped pull this team to some wins.
Yeah, all eyes have been on Logan Gilbert. He has just been an outstanding part of this team. When we go to the bullpen, it's also very up and down. I mean, you've got guys like Andres Munoz who can really show up sometimes, but then also other times just absolutely collapses. Um, how concerned are you about the bullpen right now, Josh?
Very concerned because as of right, I mean, our starting pitching hasn't been good, and our bullpen either adds onto the lead or adds onto that deficit, or brings the deficit in. As shown as well by that Mariners Angels game way back when we gave up a grand slam after I think our starting pitching gave up 0 runs. I mean, they're the people that can lose games, and it just hasn't been good. Trent Thornton came in from the Blue Jays last year. Um, been very, very iffy as a reliever. Andres Munoz, he was good at the start as a closer. But now when he comes into games, it's more of I'm more worried that he's given up a lot of runs and has shown recently. Somehow he has a 1.41 ERA, which is kind of surprising to me, probably because he's only put into close late game situations. But I noticed he has been giving up runs more recently.
Yeah, I mean the bullpen is a bit of an issue, especially like you said, the starting pitching hasn't been performing as up to their level as they have in the past. But the biggest elephant in the room obviously has to be the hitting. I mean the hitting is just absolutely atrocious. They've been striking out left and right. No one really can get their bats going. The analysts are always saying, the Mariners need to add a couple more bats to their lineup if they want a good shot at the World Series. But How do you get those extra bats to get you to the World Series when all of your current bats, even your best bats, aren't able to get their things going either? I mean, look, you just have to look at Julio Rodriguez. That's all you need to see. I mean, this guy, we already know he starts off slow, but it's just been an eight. It's practically been an 80 game slump. He's had a little bit of bursts here and there, but for the most part, he just hasn't clicked the way we want him to. And this is a guy we have on what, a 15-year contract. If you're a Mariners fan, obviously
Yeah.
you're gonna be concerned about this. Josh, I mean, what else can you say about the hitting?
Well, I mean, it feels like Rodriguez is a slump, but he's actually leading the team in batting average somehow, some way, just because the rest of the team sucks.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying.
this bat is actually surprisingly better than last year. I mean, almost basically everyone in our starting lineup is above 200 rather than last year, where up to half of our guys could be under 200. Yeah, but I think the player I've seen that has shined has been obviously Cal Raleigh. I mean, his cat he is covering for catching, especially when our backup catchers either Mitch Garver or
Zavala,
who was it used to be?
Sebi Zavala.
Oh yeah, Zavala. I think he's gone.
Yeah,
DFA.
that guy, man.
Yeah,
Oh man, just made
he
me mad.
deserves. Yeah,
I would see him behind the plate, and
no,
I'm like, we lost this game. I already knew.
could not catch a runner on. Could not catch a runner stealing. Like it was so you could steal and you could walk and he couldn't throw you out. Um, but Cal Raleigh's leading the team in home runs with 13, leading the team in RBIs with 40. Oh no, someone just called me. Um, but he has been clutch in the late innings recently. Walk offs against the White Sox, especially when we had that 4 game series against the White Sox, was very dramatic. Um,
I muted my mic. My bad. Okay.
I could hear you.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on OBS. The way I filmed this, it's just I don't know what I was doing, but it was just kind of tripping. The camera. If you didn't hear, the camera is off. I mean, not working for some reason. So I'm just gonna leave it there. You can probably hear me, so it'll be fine. But like Josh said, I
You're
mean,
stuck with me.
yeah, Cal Raleigh has really been a focal point for this team. I mean, like you said, Zavala, when he was here, just didn't show up. And then Garver, I mean, we got to talk about Mitch Garver here. He's just been quite disappointing for this team overall. I mean, he's not hitting the way he's supposed to, and when he's catching, it's not that great either. Um, and it really goes to show, like you said, how Julio having the highest batting average just shows how disappointing. Because Julio being labeled disappointing by many Mariners fans, just and then everyone else being just worse than him, really shows how bad that hitting has been. Even JP's having trouble. Ty France is I don't even know what to say about Ty France anymore. Mitch came back, but he hasn't been great either. Rojas a little good run there, but then like he's got to switch with the Rice every once in a while, and he stopped like being hot. So the bats are just like you said, just like absolutely disappointing. It's just like Cal and company at this point. Um, it is definitely concerning as they go on this road stretch. But Josh, I mean, going into the All Star break, what do you want to see from this team before All Star weekend happens?
Um, I want to I want for them to pull off another one of those weird streaks right before the All-Star game. Um, it's going to be tough, but they will be going on this weird California road trip, a 2 game stretch against the Mariners, and then a 4 game stretch against the Angels, a divisional matchup right before the All-Star break. I think this is where the Mariners could hit their stride in the hot sun, um, and hopefully pull out a little bit more of the divisional games right before the break. They also have a technical road game against the Blue Jays in Seattle, as all the Vancouver fans are going to be coming in.
Yeah.
I'm personally going to be there
Ooh.
for that Friday game as well. So,
Good luck,
um,
Josh. Don't
yeah,
get
I
jumped.
know. It's a road game basically in Vancouver. It's going to be a weird sight to see all the Blue Jays fans, but on a basically um 9-game road trip to end the season or end the first half, this is where the Mariners can possibly break get a little bit of momentum heading into that break.
For sure, for sure. I mean, they're almost halfway through the season. All Star break is coming up soon. So the Mariners got to ramp it up if they want to keep that lead in the AL West. All right, Josh, let's go over to the Seahawks. Like the last time we talked about the Seahawks, I think we like extended Leonard Williams or something. We missed the schedule release and the draft. So look, the schedule release we can worry about later because obviously we need to see how this team plans out first. I mean, they had OTAs and mini camps and all that. Training camp is going to come up eventually. So we got to get a better look at this team, especially since it's just so young and you have a new coach and new coordinators. So you got to have time to figure out how can this team perform compared to everyone else. But what we should think about is the draft. And in the draft, the Seahawks, with a very solid first round pick, they selected Byron Murphy Jr. Byron Murphy Jr. or Byron Murphy the second? My bad. I think it's Byron Murphy the second.
Byron Murphy the second.
All right, Byron Murphy the second, who was from Texas. He is a defensive tackle, and when I like heard that pick, I was like, nice defensive tackle. We kind of need that because the line was just not performing well last season. I mean, you had Draymond Jones inside. Draymond Jones is supposed to be a defensive end, and if you're putting him inside, that already is really concerning because obviously he's not an interior lineman. He's better playing on the edge. So obviously bringing in a defensive tackle with your first pick in the draft, a great decision. He's 6 feet, 309 pounds. Josh, how do you feel about this pick? Like it seems like a generally positive review from most Seahawks fans. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I mean, obviously they were probably deciding between Byron Murphy and I think Dallas Turner. I mean, they could have
Yeah.
traded down with all those teams wanting to get Dallas Turner. But there's been comparisons to Aaron Donald, and I think it could happen for Byron Murphy. I think it's a good pick. Um, bolsters that defense, uh, brings in a huge need. Hopefully, turn this defense into what it was. Oh my goodness, 10 years ago, back when the Legion of Boom was
We are
there.
so
Oh my
old now,
gosh, it's
aren't
been
we?
10 years.
We're
We're
old.
so old. We're old.
Yeah. With his combine stats, it's honestly quite impressive. I mean, a 4.87 in the 40, that is really, really impressive
Wow.
for a defensive tackle, especially like an interior lineman. If you're running sub 5 in the 40, that is very, very impressive. So, obviously, he's got the speed. Like you said, he's been compared to Aaron Donald. Obviously, it's going to be very hard to get to Aaron Donald level. Speaking of which, thank goodness he retired. But have a hell of a career for Aaron Donald. Anyways, going back to Byron Murphy, it's gonna be hard to be up at Aaron Donald level. But if he could just get a little bit of what Aaron Donald became, that would already be a huge improvement for this Seahawks defensive line. I mean, this is a line that had a lot of trouble with both pass rushing and run block, and just like run defense in general. It was hard for us to just hold on and tackle. There were so many broken tackles last season because no one was really wrapping their arms around and just holding them. It seemed like a very different approach. You know, like one of those like no arms, lead the shoulder. You can't see my camera, so I can't really demonstrate. But like just leading with the shoulder, that's about it. That is a very risky way to tackle.
Like
But
a
with
shoulder
Byron
kind of. I
Murphy,
don't know.
yeah. But with Byron Murphy, like you can definitely see this guy is a guy with no nonsense. he definitely has a chip on his shoulder. You can see with his tats. Um, and he brings a lot to the table for this defense. A very young defense. I mean, we've always been talking about future Legion of Boom and whatever. They're not going to be the Legion of Boom, but if they can be like half of what the Legion of Boom is, especially in this era of offense, that would be great. Um, Josh, how else do you feel about the rest of our draft picks? I mean, I would say this was a solid draft. Definitely not the best draft, but I would say it's up there.
I mean, obviously we don't have as much picks as we've done um, in past years, thanks to now the Russell Wilson trade officially concluding. But I mean, our next pick in the third round, Christian Hayes out of UConn, build that offensive guard position. We need and great pick to bolster that offensive line. We picked another one in Satoa Lomea out of Utah in the sixth. But honestly, a solid draft. I'm not expecting that much. I'm not expecting it to shine, but I am expecting it hopefully to get the job done, and then maybe Byron Murphy leading this class.
I thought it was kind of cool how the Seahawks drafted both cornerbacks from Auburn, which okay, like the emotional side of you is just like that's great because they went to college together, now they could be in the pros together. But also, I mean, you're continuing to build up that young secondary that's already being anchored by Witherspoon, who had a very impressive rookie year. Woolen hopefully bouncing back soon, and then the safeties definitely a question mark now that Quandre and Jamal are gone. Um, so building up that secondary for sure. With the safeties, I mean, we picked up a couple free agents, but I'm not really having high expectations for the safety position. I'm caring a lot more about the corners because those are our big names on the defense. But yeah, overall, a very solid draft. I mean, we kind of hit all the points we needed. I mean, we got guards, we got guys on the defensive line, we got a secondary. It's just kind of what you need. I don't know if I'm tripping, but Josh might be frozen on my end. Oh man, gotta love the technical difficulties here. Um, so my camera's off. Josh might be frozen. So I'm gonna have to stall a little bit. You gotta hear my voice while this screen is just black. And hopefully we can get Josh back in on the mix soon. Um, there he is, I believe.
Okay, the weird thing is, I could hear every single word you were saying. It just said that my RTC was oh shoot,
You're good. You're good. You're good.
my RTC was disconnected, but I could hear a word that you had to stall and everything. But that's weird. Why are we? I We're
See, this
somehow
is
still
this
using
is why
Discord
we
and
this is why we want to have an in-person thing in the works. We got to figure that out soon.
yes.
Um, especially since Jacob comes back. All right. Let's go over to the Sounders right now. Um, Josh, I mean, it's it. How do you feel about it? I mean, they started off really slow for one, so I would say 6, 7, and 7 isn't the worst thing. How do you feel about it?
Okay. I mean, just okay. The rest of the West has not been that good that we haven't blown the season quite yet. I mean, but yes, as of right now, we are technically out of the playoffs, because of a tiebreaker. But between fifth through 10th place is separated by just 4 points, and that can shake up a lot before the end of the season. Um, the last game against Dallas on June 22nd, I went to that game. Was crazy. Dallas took a 2-0 lead in the 73rd minute, and then we scored three straight goals in about 15 minutes, including one in stoppage time, to win the game and take 3 points. That's basically been the highlight of this weird 2 month period that we haven't been talking about the Sounders. Other than that, um, we've been dropping points like crazy. Wins at three separate times. We've had a 1-0 lead heading into 80th plus minute, and three times teams have scored a late one to tie the game. That's basically 6 points that we dropped with less than 10 minutes left in games, and that could have, if we had hold on to that lead, that could have catapulted us into a top four spot. So we do not have that clutch mentality um, when we need it, but we do have. We're basically about halfway through the season. All Star is about to come very soon. We have about 5 games left, including an extra quarterfinal U.S. Open Cup game, which is a separate U.S. tournament featuring all U.S. teams like amateurs, um, next pro leagues, amateurs, and all into just one big tournament that's separate from MLS. We're playing the quarterfinal of that against Sacramento in July, and then uh, at the end of July, uh, right after All Star game, we'll start the Leagues Cup, which is another tournament between all the MLS
Lots
teams
of
and all the
tournaments.
Liga MX teams. What is that?
Lots of tournaments. Lots of tournaments in soccer.
Yes. So a lot of schedule congestion while all these players from all players from the MLS are getting called up for international duty because we have the Euros going on and Copa America going on between all the European international teams and all the South American and some North American teams. So a lot of schedule congestion is going on. A lot of games, a lot of soccer will be played, including the Olympics um, as well, and the Sounders just have to push through that. Thankfully, we don't have any call ups right now, so we actually have the full team for this stretch.
So yeah, this little stretch right here, you got a couple cup games and then still some matchups before the All-Star break. We'll see how the Sounders do coming back. I mean, you said before we started recording, Josh, you said we were coming back. Hopefully they can get back into the playoff picture and we'll see what happens. You said Olympics, Josh. Speaking of Olympics, the U.S. are having their Olympic trials right now. We usually don't talk about things like swimming and track and field, but come on, it's Olympic season. We gotta acknowledge it a little bit. Why don't we start off with track and field? I mean, 2 words: Noah Lyles. He's a
Yeah,
very you could say controversial personality because of his comments about the NBA and all that. Why don't we start off there? I mean, he won world championships and then he started a nice little rant during a press conference about why like the NBA and American sports shouldn't be calling themselves world champs. I mean, he said world champs of what? The United States of America? This is exactly what he said, by the way. And honestly, I don't know how you feel about it, Josh, but I think he's right. I mean, what are the NBA world champs of? Like the league is okay, there's one team in Canada, I get it. But every other team is in the US. So he has a very good point saying you shouldn't be calling yourselves world champions. You can definitely call yourself national champions because you are the winners in the US. But world champs is a little bro. I mean, if you're winning a world championship like he did, you definitely have the right to call yourself world champ. So I see where he's coming from, but that definitely stirred some beef with like NBA players and all that. Josh, I don't know. How do you feel about Noah Lyles as like a personality? Because he's definitely a little eccentric.
I mean, yeah, but there you also have to take in the other side that international players' dreams are to make the NBA. This is,
Good
and
point.
obviously we can see that the U.S. players can dominate in basketball for a very long time. There has been some gains, I would say, but as of right now, yeah, it's basically the world champs because I think the Celtics can beat any other team in the world. Let's be real.
That
They're
is that is
that
fair.
good.
And it
I
would
mean,
be
yeah.
pretty funny if like the U.S. like we were gonna send a very stacked squad to the Olympics on the USA basketball team. I mean, you've got what LeBron and Steph and KD. You've got an insane group of players. So if they go out there and they win the Olympics, I mean, then the world champs argument gets very spicy between No Lyles and the NBA players. But we'll see if that actually happens. We'll see if that happens because we've seen in the past, even with dream teams, sometimes doesn't work out in the end. Um, let's go back to track and field. Noah Lyles, he won the 100 meters at the U.S. Olympic trial, so he obviously will punch his ticket to the Olympics later this summer. Um, how do you feel about him? Like, you can't see my face right now, but I think it's really funny how he pulled out the Yu-Gi-Oh card before he ran. What do you think about that, Josh?
It was kind of funny. Yeah, the first time he pulled out a Blue Eyes White Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh card, I don't know what it. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh, so I cannot speak to how good that card is. But he actually ran with that card, um, which is shocking. And he pulled out a second card the second time he raced, and that's how he qualified um, for the Olympics. So, I mean, if it works, works, I guess.
Yeah. And then also qualifying for the Olympics was another quite eccentric personality in Fred Curley. He placed third at the 100-meter final, but the thing that's been like haunting Fred Curley is him saying he's gonna break the world record this year. So obviously no one's gonna believe that because it's gonna take a long time for anyone to touch Usain Bolt's 9.58. But he said he was, and then in his first race of the season, he false started and tripped and fell. Pretty embarrassing. So obviously he ate his words there. He came into the trials with a lot of pressure, a big chip on his shoulder. Everybody's doubting him, but he did pull through. So he's going to the Olympics also. And this is a world champ from 2 years ago. So don't sleep on Fred Curley. That's for sure. But I think the most disappointing thing was Christian Coleman. I mean, Christian Coleman, well, when he was like five, not even 5 years back. Oh yeah, 5 years back he was a world champion. Uh, 7 years back he beat Usain Bolt in Usain Bolt's final 100-meter race. He got second. Bolt got third. But the thing that has been haunting Christian Coleman the most has definitely been his finish. I mean, he starts off like a bullet. He is out there in the lead within the first 20 meters. And then from there, he just kind of deteriorates. Like, if you want to compare him to NFL terms, Christian Coleman is the Atlanta Falcons. Like, just the last 50
Yeah.
meters absolutely deteriorates. Just his form is messed up. He just doesn't have the finish to the line. Whereas all the other racers, Lyles, Bendarek, and Curly, they can finish strong. That's what holds him back. So definitely disappointing for him because he was in the lead for like 60 meters of that race and then got passed by 3 people at the end. You definitely don't want to see that happening. Um, we could talk about some of the distance races too. I mean, the 1500 meters was kind of crazy. You've got Cole Hawker, Yard Nagoose, and Hobbs Kessler going to the Olympics, which is a pretty stacked group. It's gonna be interesting to see how all of them, especially Nagoose, like holds up against the international guys like Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr. So that's gonna be exciting to see. Also, I don't know. I've started really enjoy. I mean, Josh, you and I are distance runners, but I've started like really enjoy. Like, no one watches the distance races during like Olympics and all that. It's usually like that's the time you go to the bathroom. But for some reason, I've just started to really like it. I think it's just because you see all these amazing people and you're like, how do I run like them? So it's exciting to see that also. Um, a pretty sad thing that happened during the Olympic trials was a thing Mo. I mean, she is easily the fastest 800-meter runner in the U.S. if not the world. And unfortunately for her, in the 800-meter finals, she tripped and fell 200 meters in. So
Oh, I saw that one.
yeah,
Yeah,
she
I did
ended up
watch.
finishing last, which absolutely sucks. So this is somebody who was in contention for gold at Paris, and now it's not gonna happen, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And she tried to appeal it too, and it didn't. It got denied.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, she's not gonna be running the 800 at Paris, which sucks because I mean she had the gold. Like, she was most likely, her and the one girl from Great Britain, they were gonna be fighting for gold together. Unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. 10,000 meters. My guy Nico Young qualifying. That was pretty fire. Um, what else has stood out to you during this track and field? set of days?
Um, I didn't really watch a lot of it. I mean, mostly it was just that 800, and then a little bit of Noah Lyles. But yeah, I can't stand watching the track and field stadium at Eugene for so long. So um,
Oregon. But okay, Hayward Field is absolutely beautiful, though. You got to admit, it's beautiful. Come on.
it's nice, but I just can't see green and yellow for so long.
That
I mean,
as an Oregon,
to be
like,
fair, I
okay,
can't.
I would see how you feel. Like, if I saw a Wazoo track stadium, I don't think I would be able to see red that much either. So very valid in your case, Josh. Oh, we gotta wait. We gotta talk about Quincy Wilson, the 400-meter phenom, only 16 years old. Josh, believe it or not, Quincy Wilson is younger than me, and he was
Wait,
in
what?
the 400-meter final. He's broken the U18 400-meter record twice in 2 3 days. He broke it in the first
Wow.
round, and then he broke it again in his semifinal. He didn't match it in the final, but he did place sixth. And this is sixth in the whole U.S. in the 400. And he's only 16. Absolutely insane. Um, Definitely, once he gets older, he's definitely got a good shot at possibly breaking the world record. I mean, he's only 16. He's got definitely lots of time to grow. And plenty of time to improve his skills. So that's just insane. I mean, 16 years old and you're sixth in the country, and he's possibly gonna go to the Olympics as an alternate, maybe in the 4x4 or something like that, which is just insane to think about. 16 years old, really, really impressive. Um, if you want to talk about swimming, Josh, we can definitely see like a lot of the same faces, but also some new ones. Obviously, the focus has to be on Katie Ledecky and Caleb Dressel, the
Yeah.
two new. I mean, the not even new faces. What am I saying? The two faces of
Yeah.
USA swimming, uh, going back for another round at the Olympics. Definitely in clear contention for the gold. I mean, Katie Ledecky, one of the most decorated swimmers of all time, and Caleb Dressel, he's starting to chase those records. Also, I mean, he's already broken a couple world records. He definitely, at the end of his career, might even be compared to Michael Phelps. That's a little bit of a reach, but he's still got time. And just the way he's been swimming has been absolutely impressive. So swimming is exciting, track is exciting. I mean, those are Josh. How many other sports do you watch during the Olympics?
Uh, Too many. I mean, gymnastics, basketball, soccer, little bit of track, little bit of weightlifting. I think is this the year they're doing karate? Maybe.
Ooh, I don't
Or
know.
is it? I can't
You
remember.
definitely would like,
But
you know how like with NFL Red Zone they're doing like a gold zone with Scott Hansen.
yeah,
I definitely
with
think you
Scott,
would buy
yeah,
that.
too.
You would definitely watch that.
Yes, I would probably be watching the Olympics via Gold Zone.
That's valid. That's valid. So I mean, the Olympics are exciting. Anytime the Olympics come around, it's always going to be hype. I mean, it's on basically 24/7 on NBC, so it's going to be very very exciting. We're not sponsored by NBC, by the way. I just said, because the channel, obviously. Um, yeah. So that's how track looks. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about, Josh? Sports wise,
Oh,
NBA Finals,
weird thing is for the next Olympics in LA, they're gonna have
Oklahoma
some of the
City.
events be in
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
that
Yeah.
that that really confused me. I'm like, isn't the point to be in one city? Why are we doing it in Oklahoma? Why Oklahoma City? Yes, because Oklahoma City is a very important part of LA. My favorite part of LA is
hmm
Oklahoma City. Yeah, I don't get it either, Josh. I mean, LA is a big enough place for you to find like skate parks and stuff to do your competitions at.
Yeah.
I don't know why they had to move it over to OKC.
They have to move like a
Why
softball
do they
stadium.
always move things to OKC, man? You know, at
They
first
love moving things to
basketball,
OKC.
now this. I don't know. I'm ranting a little.
Yeah.
All right. it just feels weird seeing the camera just not working. So like I just sound like an audio. Like I sound like I'm on the
Yeah,
radio
this is
now.
weird.
It is weird. It is
Mm-hmm.
definitely weird. But shout out
Here
Josh for
comes our
hanging through with
guest.
looking at
Yes,
a black
Martin.
screen with a couple purple bubbles. He's
Yay!
really thugging it out over there. Um, we could talk about the NBA Finals. I mean, honestly, from what I was reading online, everyone had the Mavs for some reason, and then out of nowhere, okay, not really out of nowhere, but like the Celtics just kind of
No,
cruised them.
it was the Celtics. Everybody knew Celtics were going to win. Just everybody was rooting for the Mavs, myself included. Um, in the end, yeah, Celtics won.
I was
I mean, that's
really,
pretty much
I
it.
was going in Game 4 thinking this is gonna be a sweep, and then out of nowhere the Mavericks just pull out like a crazy win, and then from there it's just wraps. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, the hate for the Celtics, I feel like it's a little too much, especially on Jason Tatum. It's not like Jason Tatum's done anything wrong. He's just, I guess the Kobe stuff kind of makes people annoyed, but I mean, he's just like looking up to his idol, right? I feel like people are just taking it out of proportion, and and then that's where you get hated on. I mean, he's not even. I wouldn't consider Jason Tatum a villain. But I don't know. That might just be me. There's a lot of people out there who give Jason Tatum a lot of hate. So that's definitely something. Um also I mean along the NBA finals, I mean we could talk about the Stanley Cup finals too cuz it went to game 7.
Uh,
I mean, how did you feel about that? I mean, the Florida Panthers won. Um so I mean, weren't they like didn't they have like a yeah, they had a 3-0 lead and then almost choked it away.
yep, had a 3-0 lead. I was just waiting for you to address the elephant in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
room, and that
Almost,
was the
almost,
Panthers
almost the
having the
Atlanta
3-0 lead.
Falcons. That would have possibly
Almost.
been, that would have become the biggest choke in sports history. But luckily, the Panthers got away with it. In the end, woo, go Florida. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yay! You can make it better. I think, especially for the Stanley Cup Finals, you can make two good arguments. One, that it was actually better than the NBA Finals this year.
Oh yeah.
And two, that the winning team should be world champions because we've never seen a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup in our lifetime.
Ooh, wow. I mean, Edmonton was. I mean, Edmonton almost had it. Like comeback of the century, nearly there. I mean, or comeback in NHL history, nearly there, but oh so close. Didn't get it done in the end. Almost had it.
Yeah,
Almost had it.
and you can go to Florida Panthers games now
No,
or Tampa
they're a
Bay
little too
Lightning.
far. I'd probably go to the Lightning games if the Kraken went by. I'm definitely gonna chop a can of field when
Mm,
the Mariners show up. That's for sure.
yeah,
Maybe Hawks games when they visit the Bucks. Stuff like that. Stuff like that. We'll see. We'll see how
get
being
ready to
un
speak Buccaneers, Martin.
we'll see how being an away fan feels when you go to those games. Probably gonna be a different experience, but you know what? I'm
I
where
mean, you
I'm.
can't
We'll
watch
see what happens.
Seattle home games anymore, like Mariners home games or
No,
Kraken
no, no,
home
no, no,
games.
Josh. You
You
definitely
can't.
showed me a couple strings that I can figure out how to watch them.
Well,
We're not gonna
yes, I
expose them.
know, but we're not to discuss. We're not. We're gonna. But I'm saying because of the time difference, games will
Yeah.
start at 10 p.m.
So
Eastern.
you know what I can always do? I did this like 2 years ago during the Mariners playoff run. I would like play the games while I was falling asleep, and for some reason, Rick Riz's voice is always making me like doze off. So I can listen to the game for like as long as I can, maybe like 2 or 3 innings, and I'm out cold. And then I'll like wake up,
Yeah.
and then I'll just hear they won or lost, something like that. It
What
won't be
just
that bad.
happened?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll figure out ways around it. Or you can always just watch the highlights online. You'll figure out
Yeah.
who won eventually. You know.
There's 162 games. You'll be fine.
Yeah, plenty of time. You don't have to watch every single one. Josh has to watch every single
Uh,
one, but you
yeah,
know how
I
to.
do.
161 games isn't gonna kill you, Josh. All right. I think that is.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. It's crazy. Think of the players, Josh. 162 games. That takes a toll on the
Spring
body.
training. I watched
Was
every
with
single
spring
spring
training,
training game.
and then
I
if you
watched.
go to the playoffs too. I mean, you're talking almost
Yep.
200 games at that point. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, that's probably gonna do it for this podcast. Thanks for dealing with looking at my black screen for the last 25 minutes of the episode, Josh. Shout out, Josh, for thugging it out. And you guys got to see
Yay.
Josh's amazing face for the whole episode, so that's awesome. We'll see you guys hopefully soon. Hopefully we don't take another 2 month break, but hopefully soon with Jacob back, and we'll get this podcast rolling back the way it was before we had a struggle with school. Definitely gonna try to get a lot of episodes out in the summer, even with the stuff going on with me and going to Tampa. We already talked about it a little bit. Um, we are gonna get as many episodes out as we can during the summer, and then once we become student athletes again, we'll see what happens from there. But thanks for listening to Emerald City Sports, the podcast. Remember to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You're probably gonna find us there, and give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever is on there that gives us a positive approval. We'll see you guys hopefully soon. Stay tuned to
We'll
Seattle
see you in August.
Sports, and peace out. I don't know why I
Goodbye.
saluted when the black screen is there. Like, I could just be talking into the mic. All right, we'll see you guys.